Well, welcome back to In the Word. We'll be in Psalm 120 today, but before we get there, I want to talk about Psalms 120 to 134. They're a group of Psalms and they're brought together because of a common title that's called the Songs of Ascent, or sometimes, perhaps in your Bible, they're also called Songs of Decrees. And what these are is a collection of Psalms that were, as far as we know, recited by, sung by, chanted by pilgrims that were traveling from places in Israel, places around the world, really, to Jerusalem as they went up to Jerusalem to observe three feasts the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is associated with Passover, the Feast of Booths, and Pentecost. So they would be singing these psalms as they made their way. They're called the Song of Ascents because Jerusalem is uphill from anywhere in Israel. So it's ascending to Israel. As you go through the Psalms, perhaps you're taking notes. I know some of you are taking notes on the Psalms as we go through them. I want you to notice some key features that kind of bind the Psalms together. There's these themes of emotions. There's the journey of life, which includes hostility against you, insecurity in your own soul, sense of an observance of injustice and suffering. There's also a themes of this necessity to adopt a form of devotion that's really centralized and focused on the Bible, the centrality of continuously praising and trusting God no matter what circumstances are offering you. We see also this theme of God being the maker of the heavens and the earth. This is closely related to his sovereignty, since he is the maker of the heavens and the earth. He owns them, he has power over them, he controls them, he has every right to do that since he is their maker. We also see the phrase repeated several times, now and forever. I think this is an expression of trust and hope in God and his eternal kindness, his eternal nature, and his eternal steadfast love for all his people. We also find this recurring theme of the Davidic covenant, the Davidic son, and the messianic deliverer who's coming. Of course, the psalmist didn't know that was going to be Jesus by name, but they were looking forward to that greater son of David to come and reign and rule on the earth and deliver them from their enemies. The Psalms are in this group from 120 to 134 are arranged in particular order. It's two groups of seven with an introduction in Psalm 120 and then a conclusion in Psalm 134. And it begins with Israel surrounded by their enemies and concludes with really unity among brothers and sisters in Jerusalem. So you see kind of a progression there. There's also this what's called, don't get scared by the word, a chiastic structure. Maybe you've heard of that before. So in a chiastic structure, imagine a V, and at the bottom of the V is Psalm 127. So everything on both sides of the V points to and supports the message of Psalm 127, which is simply trusting in God's provision. And as you work your way into Psalm 127 and away from it, you see parallels. So at the top of the V, on the left side, you'd see Psalm 120, and on the right side, you see Psalm 134. And they kind of correspond to each other in a loose way. Psalm 120 is talking about distress in a foreign land, seeking deliverance from oppressors. Psalm 134, just across to that on the V, would be the blessing of the Lord in the temple in the evening. So you see them first distressed in the land and then secure in Jerusalem. If you work your way down the V, and I won't go through every psalm, I'm just giving you an example. Psalm 121 is about trusting in God's protection. Psalm 133 is about unity and brotherhood in Jerusalem. So you see how God's trust and protection finds its fulfillment in that unity and brotherhood in Jerusalem. And they are arranged intentionally like that. It's arranged to not only put your focus on Psalm 127, trusting in God's provision, but also to see how that provision is worked out from desiring protection to receiving protection, from desiring fellowship to receiving fellowship, from desiring to be in the temple to being in the temple. So those things all work together. And it's part of just the beauty, I think, of God's word, just the incredible unity of his word. Just really love to see those sorts of things, and pray that as we go through the Psalms and you've learned as you've come through with me some of the structural things that make the Psalms just so incredibly edifying. So let's talk about Psalm 120. I've, let's see, gone on for 6 minutes already. So let's see. Psalm 120, pretty short. Let me show you that psalm. You don't want to be looking at me all the time. So let me show you the psalm, Psalm 120, Song of Ascents. So notice the difference here between this Song of Ascents and the title, which is in italics. Now this, I told you several times, this is added by the editors. These things in italics are added by the editors. This is actually in the Bible. This is actually part of, if you had a Hebrew Bible and looked this up, you would see at the top kind of a title, A Song of Ascent. This is in a Hebrew Bible, actually this would be verse 1, and then the rest of the verses would be +1. So the message of this psalm essentially is that you can find peace, that it's available to you, even if you're in the midst of conflict. And what we see in this is the psalmist is really in distress. He's surrounded by deceitful and violent people, and he is seeking peace and refuge in God, he or she. It's a good reminder to us, I think, that when we are surrounded by conflict, when surrounded by chaos, when we are surrounded by people that are lying to us and being deceitful to us, we can search for and find our refuge in the Lord. I'll talk about a personal application as we get to the end of this. Just a short outline. You know, sometimes I don't outline these short psalms because they're pretty straightforward, but here we'll start with verses 1 and 2, which I would label as something like a cry for peace or a plead for peace. And then verses 3 and 4 is the consequences of conflict, the consequences of opposition. And then verse 5 through 7 would be the courage to seek peace in the Lord. So I think that's a good outline to help guide you through it as you read it. Let me just stop. Verse 3 is our here verse. Highlight, explain, apply, and respond. So we've been going through the Psalms like this really all year. I hope you find it useful and incorporate that into your own devotional practice. But let's take a look what he's saying here. What shall be given to you, and what more shall be done to you? Well, who is he talking to? Well, at the end of the verse, you see there, O deceitful tongue. So he is personified, the deceitful tongue of those who are lying and trying to deceive him. He's asked the Lord to deliver his soul from those that are trying to deceive him. And he's asking rhetorically, I think, what shall be given to you? What is the answer that's coming? And don't we feel that way sometimes, that people just get away with lying and cheating, but ultimately it is revealed. I think you've probably seen that in your life as I've seen it in my life, that people who have been deceitful are often exposed. You deceitful tongue. And verse 4 answers this: sharp arrows of the warriors, the burning coals of a broom tree. He's talking about here is that there's going to be retribution, there's going to be vindication, that he's comforting himself in that. He's praying for not only deliverance, but he's finding comfort knowing that God doesn't allow these things to go on forever. He exposes the deceitful person and will protect you from them. So for me personally, recently, how to apply this, I was sorely disappointed by one of my, has been somebody I really look up to, excuse me, a real hero in the faith to me, a living man, Dr. Steve Lawson. I've mentioned him before on this and recommended his books. He's been just a stellar conference speaker, stellar speaker at the Shepherd's Conference at John MacArthur's church. He's got One Passion Ministries where he has a daily, or had a daily devotional, as well as ran a online school for expository preaching. And Dr. Lawson was revealed last week to have been in what was called an inappropriate relationship with a woman. What's emerging now this week, and this has been verified, it was a 5-year relationship with a woman who was a third his age. He's 73, so I'm guessing a woman in her early to mid 20s. And the reason he confessed, and good for him, is this young lady's father became aware of what was happening, confronted Steve Lawson, and forced him to confess. So very disappointing. How deceitful was Steve Lawson, both deceitful in his teaching. He often spoke against adultery and warned about adultery among pastors, and deceived us in terms of hiding this relationship and not exposing it until he was under threat of having it exposed. So my personal application, perhaps you've had someone in your life who has really disappointed you, someone who has betrayed a trust, betrayed a confidence, presented themselves in one way and turned out to be something else altogether. And if that's happened to you, I guess my lesson, my response to this, and perhaps yours, is to cry to the Lord. Ask the Lord to deliver you. Again, not why has this happened to me, but what is the Lord teaching me? Lord is teaching me not to rely on men, not to trust in men. So, but to trust in Him, have my focus on Him, have my focus on His Word. So, brothers and sisters, I pray that these Psalms of Ascents really minister to your soul as we hear the words of these pilgrims gathering from around Israel and ultimately from around the world to come and seek the Messiah, seek the Lord in Jerusalem. God bless you.